In this video, we are going to take a look at the float property and how to apply that to your elements and on your web page. Okay, so let's go back there. All right. So what the declaration looks like is like this. You would have a selector and then you would say float left. Float is the property, left is the value. And let's go take a look at how to do that in here. So let's create a class, and I'm going to call this class float left. Okay. And of course, if it's a class, it has to have the period first, right? Float left. And the property is float, and left is the value, so it's going to float to the left. Now, let's go apply that to, save file, let's go apply that to your paragraphs in here. Okay, so I took out the class equals warning, and I'm going to add class equals float left. And I'll do that to both. Okay, let's take out class equals warning and go class equals float left. There we go. So they're both going to float left. I'm just going to go back and add a few more styles to it. Okay. I want the width to be 500 pixels. Okay. And I want to have a border of 1 pixel solid black. Okay. And I also want to have padding and of 20 pixels and margin of 20 pixels. All right, and I think that will look good. All right, and I'm gonna save it, and when I go here, okay, and I'm gonna refresh it. Oh, something is not quite right, so let's go explore what that is. So float left, okay, so float left width 500 pixels, border 1 pixel solid black, and oh, I think it's because I have not saved it yet. So you can see here there's that little dot there. It means I haven't saved it. So file, save all. Here we go. And let's go refresh. There we go. Oh, I should add a background color so you can see that better. Okay, so I'll add a background color of white smoke. Okay. There we go. File, save all. And let's go have a look. There we go, that looks good. You can also apply this to images, okay? Not just paragraphs. You can really apply it to any element, right? So if I was to go and add an image, I'm going to go to selectors here. So let's go add an image. img source equals and images. And here I don't need the // and yz because I'm already in this, main directory, and in the main directory I'm in selectors, and I just go straight over to images, so I don't need a // to begin my file path. Then I'm going to pick curry.jpg, and I'm going to spell it with a JPEG because that's how it's spelt in the folder here. Okay. So when I go to Curry, I right click and properties. Look, it's a JPEG, not a JPG. Okay, so that's how it's written, so that's how I write it here, and I'm going to add the class to this image, and this image will also float left. All right, file, save, all, and it appears at the bottom, and the reason is because there's not enough room for it at the top. See, when there's not enough room for the second block, it moves to the bottom. Okay, so if I made these smaller, there might be room for the third block. Okay, so I can go here and I can say in style.css, maybe I want all of them to be 300 pixels, and that should make room. Save all, refresh, and there we go. Now we have room, and when it becomes too small, it gets moved to the bottom. Okay, so isn't that nice? The only trouble I see is that I have my footer kind of floating at the top now. It's because, and I'll tell you the reason why. It's because when you have floating elements, okay, when you have things that float, so this 2 paragraphs float and this image floats. So whenever you have something that floats, whatever is containing it, like main, okay, needs to have a certain property and value defined. It's called overflow auto. Okay, so that's kind of the next slide here. So the parent container must have overflow auto declaration, otherwise the container collapses and the floating elements will be sticking out of the container and it just looks bad. So overflow auto causes the element to contain its floats by establishing a new block formatting context for them so that they don't intrude to other elements in the parent context. So basically what it means is that it will look all jumbled up unless you put overflow auto in the parent container. Now what is the parent container again? The parent is what contains the children. These are the children. Okay, these are the ones that float. The children are floating. And the parent is what contains it. Main is the parent. It contains all the P's and images that float, right? So the main needs to have overflow auto in it. Okay, but we have a slight problem here. So normally we would have, main, and then we would say, overflow auto. Okay, but it's not going to work right now. And the reason is because some browsers do not recognize main as an element. So it's not going to work. And I'll show you. So if I have background color, linen, okay. If I have background color linen, it's not going to, none of these styles are going to show because this main is not being recognized. And I have saved everything. I'm going to go show you. Oh, you know what? It does work for some reason. Okay, so in some browsers it doesn't work, and in some browsers it will. Okay, I was just playing with this a little while ago, and it didn't work in Chrome, and I guess it works now. Anyway, so if it doesn't work for you, it's because your browser doesn't support main, okay? Now you can see this little footer has moved to the bottom instead of being collapsed here. So I'm going to show you what happens when there is no overflow auto. So if I take out overflow auto, okay, there you go. If I take that out, save all, there you go. If I take overflow auto, watch what happens to the footer. The footer is here, okay, and it collapses. Where did that go, right? Where did the background color go? So you need to add overflow auto so everything looks all good again, okay? So if you're, if the web page looks all messed up and you're stressed out, just put overflow auto, okay? So after you add the floats, if everything's all jumbled up, go to the parent container. First, you have to identify which is the parent container. Go to the parent container and add overflow auto, and then your life should be good again, okay? I'm just gonna add some more formatting here. So I'm going to make my width is going to be 80%, and I'm just gonna add some padding and margin so it looks a bit better. Okay. Margin. Okay, you can pause the video and add this right now. I'm gonna save all and let's go have a look-see. There we go, it looks a bit better. Okay. Much better, right? All right. Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoint. The next thing that we're going to look at this class is going to be position, but this is it for this video, and I'd like you to practice making some of your elements float and then making the parent container have an overflow auto, and everything should be good again. All right.